All right, so the next thing we're going to take a look at here is how to sign up for a Google account. Now, you may already have a Google account, and I'm going to discuss the benefits and drawbacks of having one Google account that you use for all of the various groups and jobs and whatnot that you might have versus having multiple accounts, one for each group or job, etc. I'm going to discuss all that in a separate video. But for now, I'm just going to show you how to sign up for a Google account. This is assuming you do not have one already, or if you are planning on creating a new one just for this work that you are getting ready to do. So the first thing we need to do is go to accounts.google.com/signup. Okay. Now, I want to call your attention to a couple of things here. So, this is where you put in your basic information, including your first and last name and what your username is going to be. Now, there are two ways you can create a Google account. One is to create a new Google account that has everything, including a Gmail account. So this is going to give you another email account that you're going to need to keep track of. Information related to the job that you're creating this account for is going to come to this email address, and if you want it to come to a separate one, you're going to have to set up forwarding and whatnot, which is beyond the scope of this video. That is the sort of baseline way. So, if I said John Q. Presbyter, jqpresby@gmail.com, okay? And, I put in my password and do all that. Okay, so that's one way to do it. The other way, and you'll see this link here, says use my current email address instead. So this is if you want to create a new Google account, but you don't want another email address to keep track of. You just want to have a Google account with everything except for email and continue to use your email address in Yahoo or Hotmail or whatever platform you currently use. So if I click on that, you'll see that the username field goes away and turns into an email address field. So this would be if I, for example, already had an email address at jqpresby@aol.com. That's not what I'm going to do because I don't have that address, but that is an option that you've got here. So if you don't want an additional email address to keep track of, then you will have that option to continue using your current email address, and then basically you're just using it as a username to sign into this account. One thing I want to make sure you are very aware of is that this does not give Google access to your current email account. All it is using is your email address as a login username. That's it. So it's not recommended that you make your Google password the same as your other passwords. You shouldn't reuse passwords in that way. You should create a unique password. And once again, whatever password you use, this will not give Google access to your current email address. But because that is not the workflow I'm going to be using, I'm going to create a new Gmail address, and it's going to be jqpresby, and I'm going to put in a password here, which you are not going to be able to see. There are countless videos and articles that will give you advice on how to create a good password. It is recommended that you create a good, strong password, a separate one for every account, but that also is beyond the scope of this video. So now that that's done, I'm going to hit next. Wonderful. So jqpresby@gmail.com was available. If it hadn't been available, it would tell me that, and it would give me a couple of options that I might want instead. You might not like any of those options. You might just want to try again, and that's totally fine too. So there's an option to put in a recovery email address. I'm going to put one in, but I'm going to blur it out. It's not necessary for you to see it, and I don't really want to publicize my personal email address on YouTube. I'm going to do the same thing with the phone number. And then it asks for your birthday. It truly doesn't matter what you put in there. And your gender. And then we hit next. And then it's going to, because I did put in a recovery phone number, it's going to ask me to verify it, which you're not going to be able to see until I put in the code, which I will probably blur out. But all it does is it sends you a text message, and it asks you to put in the code that it has sent you via text so that you can verify that it belongs to you. I don't really want to do this right now. You can. There are really wonderful benefits that come along with integrating Google with your smartphone, but I'm not going to do that right now. This is the privacy and terms and conditions, and it is strongly recommended that you read all of this closely. More options. And you will have options about whether or not your web and app activity are saved in your Google account, whether or not personalized ads are shown to you. And once again, this is really easy to just scroll through and not really pay much attention to, but it really does behoove you to pay attention to it, to read it, maybe do a little bit of research on what it means when they are saving your YouTube history or showing you personalized ads. There's actually a lot of stuff there that it's good to be aware of. So I'm going to hit agree, because unfortunately the other option is to not have a Google account. But it is, like I said, good to be aware, and there are privacy settings that you can control. If you're using Chrome, it's going to give you an opportunity to save this as a new Chrome profile. That is a good practice and a thing that I recommend you do. And there we go. So that is the new Google account. And you will notice, so we're on my account page. If I go to Gmail now, you will notice that here we are in my brand new Gmail account, and there's the email about finishing setting up your new Google account. If you had decided to keep your current email address and use that, you would probably get this email in there too. It would look a little bit different because the options would be a little bit different. But that is the very basics, and that is how to set up your Google account. You know, if I go to Google Drive now, this is my brand new empty Google Drive account, which is going to be very important. Oh, and look at all those helpful tips pop up. That's going to be very important as you're doing the work that you do with the presbytery, being able to access Google Drive, the things that are shared with you in shared drives, which we're going to cover in another video. But this is the absolute basic starting thing in order to have access to the committee files.